Yes, I work at the MCA, but I'm here tonight primarily because Jo is my dear friend, and she has a contingent of friends here in the audience. Yay! Jo is not just a fantastic artist, but also an amazing person, and we are all here to celebrate her and her creativity, and it's really exciting to see how many works have already got red dots on next door. So it's really great that it's a selling show, and I advise anyone who's thinking of buying to do so very quickly. All right, so over the last 3 weeks, Jo and I have had lots of chats actually about the work, and I think we're really hoping that the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes together, including questions from you, will be a conversation, you know, just a relaxed, lovely conversation. So we just want to hear about who you are and the work and where it comes from. I have got some nice questions to get us started off, and then we'll just sort of riff around, okay? So, also just before we start, jacket envy. Yes. Jacket envy. Yes. Great colour. So Jo, okay. I'm going to start by asking some questions about you and what has led you to make all the work in the exhibition next door. Perhaps we'll start with painting and your relationship with a paintbrush, okay?
Okay, I started out quite early. When I was very young, I started painting as a teenager, and I left school early and went to art school when I was 16, and I had big ambitions to be a painter and loved it, and I think I did about 4 years of art school. And then I got very interested in meditation and took off to India and spent a year there when I was about 20. And I kind of lost my momentum a little bit with painting. And when I came back to Australia, I felt like I really needed to get on with my life and earn money. So I started doing sign. This is Pinky Pearl, my dog. And so I started sign writing and learning the craft of sign writing. And I've got to say that's taken me about 40 years. I'm still learning that one. And I got a job at Channel 7 as a scenic artist. And I just started going into that area, and I started my own business. And so I've spent, since I was 23, 24 until now, working really. And I've just really wanted to go back into painting and just start painting again. And it's like when I hit my 50s, I felt like my skill set sort of joined up a little bit, and I don't know, I just stepped into a time where I felt like I could paint again, and so that's what I've been doing, and just trying to take time to paint, and just really trust all that time using paintbrushes, that I've been using paintbrushes for scenic painting and for sign writing, and trust that that's been contributing to my practice, and so I've decided to take that practice into my painting work, and that's why I've got a lot of signs in my show, and I use a lot of the sign techniques in my work as well. So that's my painting story.
Can you hear me if I don't use the mic?
Yeah.
I've got quite a loud voice, so you hang on to that.
Okay.
So would you like to just expand on what you said about Japan? Because I know a bit about, about going to Japan, what Japan means in terms of the work?
Yeah, I've always, again, that's been something I've had all my life, a big fascination for Japan and their aesthetic, the way they, everything in Japan is special. You know, the way they do everything and the way they use natural materials and let natural materials just be themselves. And I think that love has sort of followed into my work as well. And especially with materials and kind of using natural products and found objects and making them into something beautiful.
Yeah, we've had a few conversations about the way in which Japanese calligraphy, the brush hits the...
Yeah, I think I've been sort of trying to pull together all my different aspects of myself, and for me, painting, I find the best results for me of painting are when I do something quite spontaneously and not overwork something. So I really love watching like the the monks and the Sunni painters, how when they paint very quickly and very naturally, and they're trying to paint from down here. And so in my practice, I've been sort of trying to emulate that practice a bit. So I spend time just painting blocks of colour and trying to paint before my head kicks in, and then I take it from there into painting pictures. And so yeah, I'm just I call it quick and dirty because that's kind of how I paint. You know, I just have to do it fast and before my head kicks in, and kind of just use I guess the intelligence I hope I've gathered over a lifetime of using a brush.
Yeah, and I think that really shows that you rely on all that 40 years of, you know, making work to commission really, but in your body, you have to trust your instinct. And I think I don't know if anyone else here is a painter or makes art in any medium, but that thing about where you can overthink it, right? And then it all tightens up. So I think it's really important to acknowledge what it means to just try and get into a sort of Zen space of nothing, but also you're also bringing everything and your intelligence, isn't it? That's what I really see in your work. And
yeah, I've really sort of been practicing trusting myself and, you know, trusting my body and also being very present. Like when I painted the horse yesterday, I can't think about what I'm going to do before I paint it or map out how I'm going to paint a horse or anything. I have to just, the best way for me is just to step up and start right now and see what comes out. And I usually find that works best for me anyway. So yeah, it's an enjoyable practice. It's like I'm really enjoying my practice of painting. You know, kind of, it's sort of bringing my meditation into my art practice. And yeah, it's feeling very whole for me.
Great.
Yeah.
So another thing I think has become really important, it's probably always important to you anyway, but we can really see it next door, that you've framed some of the work in a particular way.
Oh yeah. I've just been, when I took on this show, it happened a little bit suddenly, and so I had a very short amount of time to put it together, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And so I've been living down on a farm out in Temora, out west, and I've been quite remote. I think the next house is about 5 kilometres from where I am. And I've got a friend down there who does picking, and so collects beautiful old materials like old timbers, and I love old lino, and there's a lot of old houses down there that are pulled apart, and so she would bring to me all these great materials, and one day she dumped that tank lid on my doorstep, so that was kind of nice. And I just really, there's something about really feeling the history of a place and the past and the patina of that life in all those old objects. They really hold a lot of power for me. And I just love to be with them and make them stable. You know, they've often got a lot of loose paint and bits and pieces falling off, so I spend a lot of time sanding and stabilising them and, you know, yeah, just making them ready for another life. And then I paint, and I just feel like it gives my work a little bit of another dimension. And I thought, oh my God, I've got to present these works somehow. I better make some frames. So I don't know why I went into this frame making frenzy. But I used a lot of the old materials from down there as well. And yeah, they became part of the art as well, I felt like the frames were just as important as the paintings. And on the Aboriginal stockmen, you know, being out in country and under the stars, I've kind of just thinking about our First Nations people a lot and the knowledge they must have had being out under those stars for all that time and all those generations, and feeling a lot of respect and, you know, wondering about the plight of it all. And so I painted the Aboriginal stockman, and I just wanted to frame him in my best frame, you know, and just make him feel respected and loved, you know. So I did that through my frame.
And it's that frame took ages. I can see you've got, is it copper?
Yeah, just copper leafed it. Yeah.
So things like gold leaf and copper leaf, you're so used to using them as a material anyway, aren't you, in sign writing?
Yeah,
so that it becomes...
Yeah, I use a lot of leaf. I mean, yeah, I noticed I was using a lot of leaf. I thought, this is weird, I use a lot of leaf. But again, that comes from sign writing, you know. I've been given a lot of vintage glass panels from an old mechanic down in Temora, and the Lone Pines sign, that's taken from the old Temora High School. They replaced all the old windows, so I've got like 100 windows, access to 100 windows. So I've been doing a whole series of signs for Temora. I've done a big sign on The Independent, their old 138-year-old newspaper, and the Mealing building, just kind of combining the history again. And I'm staying on a farm called Lone Pine, so I just wanted to pay respects to that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I visited you both in the first place where you kind of, let's call it an art residency. You know, you were given a house just outside Temora, big barn, you made it into a studio, we went, visited there, and then recently you were down there again, you were in another place which is a bit more remote.
Yeah.
And I think the experience of that, because you actually live in a tiny place in Bronte, don't you? There's this such an interesting thing about scale, you know, in the work as well. When I think about how you're making the work and just remembering bits of gold leaf floating around in the wind.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, a lot of gold leaf in the wind.
Some rusty old stuff.
Yeah.
This woman Deb just turns up and brings you loads of things, and half of them aren't right, or you decide they're not right. So it's kind of like all this stuff being moved around.
Yeah. I've got a lot of stuff down there. Yeah.
Now, thinking about the sheer physicality of you making the painting, just yesterday, just, you know, it's something, your connection with your body and your brain is really seen through how you're making big works as well, and how you're trying to make movement.
I've always painted big. I think,
you're not scared of it, are you?
Not scared of big, no. I've always painted a lot of murals for my work in the last many years of working. So yeah, I've always not had any fear of a 20-metre wall or a, you know, in fact I feel quite excited when I get a big one. And so yeah, big is good for me. But yeah, I do have been doing a lot smaller with the stiller horses and the lino paintings. Yeah, I just find the materials very sweet, and the horses are very sweet and benevolent when you paint them, you know, so they suit those materials, the horses.
There's a real feeling for me in the show around movement, but then absolute stillness. That, you know, the horses are waiting, just waiting for something, waiting for food,
Carrots.
waiting to pass on the other side. I know,
Yeah. Always carrots.
Yeah. Bit of humour in that there is a carrot when you first.
You've got to slow down. There's a couple of old horses down at Lone Pine, and you know they come in for a carrot, but their teeth are bad. So you kind of give them a carrot. It takes a while for them to snap it in half, and then you're in a hurry. I want to get back to the shed to paint, but they're just slow. And they're chewing their carrots, so you just got to wait. And give it they are hard. Yeah. Yeah, beautiful.
So to look at a small work like Lucky. So let's look the Lucky sort of sign that you've made. It's almost like a mini breastplate.
Well, that came off a table my friend Deb brought in. It was a big table like that. The top was in the same shape, but underneath it had that little plate. And I just wanted to, I make kind of work that I like to be like a talisman, because I think there's always intention in work. Like on the back of my paintings, I like to, I guess it comes from the meditation thing of going to India, and it's just about wishing people well, you know. So when I do a painting, I put their symbols on the back as well of the painting. So with these ones, once I finished, I laid them all down on the ground, and I did my Sumi thing on the back of them, and then I put all my little symbols on the back. So it's just like they're like talisman, and that little Lucky one is a really loaded one.
Yeah.
So there's a gold leaf tree on the back of it that means something. So yeah, they're just like, here's some good luck, you know.
Yeah.
People often say you're lucky. I think lucky is hard work, you know. There is an amount of luck, but it's also a lot of hard work. And so the double lucky.
Yeah, lucky's an interesting word, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you start to use it a bit, and you know, what I said earlier about you being a particular person, it's not so much luck, is it? But that thing that what you give out with all, you know, the love and care you have for people and horses and things, you get it back. You know, Deb is giving you all that stuff because she really believes in you. She's looking out for you.
Yeah,
you know?
She's been a real boon down there in Temora.
It really feels like that's going on.
When I went to this place, Temora, I've been making up my own art residencies, like, you know, you can apply for them and get a place, but I thought if you do that, you're under people's eye and expectations, so I wanted to create something where I could go and work freely, and so I decided to just pick a town, any town, and I was going to go and rent a shop, put a sheet on the window and stay there for 3 months and paint. And my friend Brett is here with the hat. he said he had a friend in Temora who he'd been to Temora, so it was a nice town. He said you should get on with his friend Craig and, you know, ask if you can do it. Anyway, I got under Craig and they were so welcoming to the town. Craig worked on the council and me and Elspeth went down there and in our beanies and our flannies went around that night to say hello and have a drink. And he bought the local bank and they welcomed us with so much love and goodness. You know, they have big platters of food and wine and candles and hugs and presents. Yeah, they just really welcomed us to the town and it just gave me a space to go there and feel like I could step up and really be in that place. And they've been like that ever since I've been there. So it's been a wonderful experience to work with them, and I worked on a building with this woman Deb, who's a picker, and she's opened a big emporium there, so I painted some murals with her and painted signs on a building, and it's just been a nice exchange. And she supported me staying there and found the places for me to stay. So yeah, it's been a good experience. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, and I think the same spirit is here as well. You know, this thing about being in the regions of New South Wales, it's really welcoming, really full of excitement, you know.
Yeah, I'm quite excited about regional. Yeah. You know, this out of Sydney. Sydney's good. Sydney's good, but I'm really interested in regional areas.
I also think your secret weapon is Pinky Pearl, the three-legged wonder. Here. It's been really good.
Yeah.
You are a sort of one woman and her dog.
One woman tripod. Three-legged dog. Yeah.
So just to say about Shri, the name Shri, which I just know you as Shri. Well, that comes from.
I've had a bit of a mix-up with my names. When I went to India all that time ago, I got given a name being there. It's actually Vana Shri, and that means goddess of nature. But Shri really stuck, and it stuck with all my friends who don't know anything about meditation side of me. But Shri is a really nice word. It just is about all richness and goodness and abundance. So it's kind of not a bad name to have, but it does confuse people. So I'm Jo Shri.
All right, well, we'll open up in a minute to questions. I heard from Belinda that some of you